Hey everybody, Nom here. It's September right now. You know what that means. That's right, the second part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Stone Ocean, has released on Netflix. Oh my god, I can't believe I put a joke inside another joke like that. And the second joke requires the viewer be familiar with Diablo 2 to understand. Get it? Netflix? Anyways, the real reason why September is significant is because it's before October, the spooky month. Valve always makes a Halloween update for Team Fortress 2 in October. They take user-generated content from the Steam Workshop and slap it into their game. Today, we're going to pretend to be Valve, browse the workshop, pick a few promising looking maps, and evaluate them. Let's begin. The first map is called Hoax, and it's a King of the Hill map made by these guys. This map has many flaws. Let's start with the aesthetic problems. The creators placed skybox props in the normal play space and scaled them up to be 16 times larger. The problem with doing this is the game engine still thinks the props are microscopic in size. It stops rendering the props when it thinks they're off screen. Since they are 16 times larger, there's a big overlap between when it stops rendering them and when they're actually off screen. This looks really bad and is easily noticeable. Another aesthetic problem is the fog. This one's more based on preference than something objectively wrong. It doesn't look great to have green mountains in the distance. It clashes with the dark sky on this side of the map, but does blend in on this side of the map since there's green in the sky. This one's a weird problem. This bucket in the hallway on both sides of the map has collision. It's really easy to walk down this corridor and get snagged on it while not paying attention. Why? Why is there a bucket here other than to cause frustration? If a bigger prop was used instead, it could at least act as cover. As it is now, it's just there to stub your toes on. This map breaks the ladder rule in Team Fortress 2. It has a ladder in a place that makes it look climbable. This confuses new players as the game does not support climbing ladders. Periodically, the flying saucer hovering over the control point emits a green light beam. All this does is slightly lower the gravity of the area until the beam stops. This is pretty disappointing considering a similar mechanic exists on the map King of the Hill Probed, but on that map, players get sucked into the flying saucer and get to travel through it. This map has miniature trains hidden throughout, so automatically it's a pretty trash map. I'm joking. Oddly, the trains are symmetrically placed on both sides of the map. This is strange as they're only aesthetic Easter eggs, so they don't need to be placed symmetrically. There are jump pads near the control point. Watch this. Kind of disappointing. Why even have a jump pad if a small staircase would function almost identically? It appears like it's possible to jump from this high up area onto the ledge around the lasers. It's not possible as there are invisible walls. This is problematic as it could mislead players. It should be more clear this area is off limits. This is an illogical complaint, but why are the lights on the trucks on? You're gonna drain the batteries for no reason. How wasteful. This map has an outdoor grinder hazard. It has a banana peel that pushes players who step on it into the hazard. This is both humorous and interesting in terms of gameplay functionality, as it's next to health and ammo pickups. The overall layout of this map is great. There seems to be a sufficient amount of cover. The shape of hallways and placement of ramps looks to be well thought out. The paths the players take to the front lines are, metaphorically, very straightforward. When a round ends, the mothership crashes, similar to other flying saucers found on other maps. This is a nice touch. This map has a lot of problems, but most are minor and can be fixed fairly easily. Overall, what's good about this map outweighs what's bad. The second map is called Pyre, and it's an arena map made by these guys. It's a Halloween event version of the map Arena Pyre. This map is substantially different than the map it's based off of. Generally, Halloween event versions of existing Team Fortress 2 maps are lightly edited. They're changed in such a way that they appear to be the original location with added Halloween decorations. Not here. This version of Pyre is very different. Thematically, it's not the same location, but rather someplace else in the Team Fortress universe that just so happens to have buildings in the same layout as Pyre. This map looks really good. The aesthetic of a burning down town at night is outstanding. The theming of this map is unique, and the look is all held together with a great color scheme too. The creators were not afraid of contrast and having areas in the play space that are pretty dark by Team Fortress 2 standards. I mean literally dark, not metaphorically, like this area is just dark to look at. It seems like a lot of effort was put into making nice spawn rooms in particular. These stables are really nice. The burning buildings in the distance also stand out as an excellent detail. This map functions like Graveyard, the event version of Lumberyard. It's an arena mode map, but multiple sub-rounds must be played in order to win a round. Each sub-round, a rare spellbook spawns at a random location. On death, players become ghosts that act as dispensers for living teammates. Every sub-round, after a certain amount of time, sudden death is declared and all players get the Marked for Death debuff. Lastly, the last player alive on a team gets guaranteed mini-crits. What differentiates this map from Graveyard is that there are no pumpkin bombs or headless horsemen. Another difference is this map has 2 control points and they're always active. Capturing them both wins the sub-round for a team. In the center of the map is a pyre, hence the name of the map. The fire from the pyre ignites players. This may seem like a pointless detail that are rarely factored into gameplay, but, on the contrary, rare spellbooks can spawn on the pyre's platform, so accidentally touching the fire will probably be a regular occurrence. Marasmus acts as the announcer on this map. This is a strange detail as nothing on this map really screams Marasmus. There's nothing carnival or over-the-top magical themed. It's not a bad detail as Marasmus is entertaining as the announcer, it's just an odd choice. This map is well put together. Overall, it's a great mixture of outstanding aesthetics and fun design. The third map is called Soul Mill, and it's a King of the Hill map made by these guys. It's a Halloween event version of the map King of the Hill Sawmill. The iconic saws in the center building of Sawmill have been replaced with ghostly green saws. Rather than instantly kill players, touching the saws deals a minuscule amount of damage and gives the player the scared status effect for a few seconds. This is a downgrade in terms of gameplay mechanics. The original saws had to be considered while doing combat in this building. These ghostly green saws can largely be ignored as they're only a mild inconvenience compared to dying. Occasionally, a ghostly green saw appears someplace on the map and flies around for a few seconds before vanishing. This saw functions like the ones in the middle of the map. It scares players touched. This saw appears very infrequently, so much so that it was difficult to get footage of it. Capturing the control point spawns skeletons and opens temporary portals to an underworld. This underworld is logging themed. The portal back to the overworld is in the bottom of a tree trunk. This underworld is impressive looking, but has a few flaws. It isn't intuitive as to where the player is supposed to go. Players take constant damage, but it has medium and large health kits, so players may camp inside it and farm enemies passing through. Lastly, the saws in it function like the other saws in this map and scare players, but the damage in the underworld immediately dispels the effect, making it largely pointless. Like other maps, successfully exiting the underworld teleports the player back to spawn and grants them temporary buffs. One very strange aspect of this map is half the cosmetic changes are well designed, and the other half appear amateurish. The amount of eyes in this drain looks bad, but on the other side of the map, the skeleton in the boat with nuclear waste barrels looks great. There's this small area with graves that's difficult to see from the playspace, but it's well put together. There's a decaying face peeking through the ground. Holes in the floor were added around the control point. It's not possible to see through the holes and see into the shaft in the center of the map. It appears like there's a lighting error in the spawns, but this may be due to the way the map was compiled. For some reason, a building was added behind blue spawn. A window to view into the building was added inside the spawn. It's a warehouse. Throughout the map are nuclear waste barrels. The ones in the playspace are in the 2 bodies of water. They deal a small amount of damage to players that get too close. The exception is this barrel, which was inexplicably forgotten and does not deal damage. This health kit in the tunnel on the barrel is very difficult to get. It requires crouch jumping to reach, and the wall above it makes it so players can only barely stand where it's required to touch it. Having to wedge yourself near a wall to get a health kit is time consuming and not ideal. Red spawn has broken glass with a boarded up window. Despite the clearly obvious and emphasized gap in the windows, no weapons can deal damage through this hole. This is really bad design. Players will try to snipe through this hole and get confused and frustrated. What's interesting about this problem is just how harmless it appears at first. On the surface, it's just a simple, neat detail, but when the gameplay implications are considered, it becomes apparent just how large of a problem it poses. Overall, this map has some questionable aspects, but isn't too bad. The fourth map is called Brain Blast, and it's a single-stage payload map made by this one guy. It's a Halloween event version of the map Payload Barn Blitz. This map is well made. It's almost a masterpiece. It's quite light on Halloween gimmicks. It has magic spellbook pickups, but instead of spellbooks, the model is replaced with a brain in a jar. The map also has explosive barrels. They function similarly to explosive pumpkins, but are easier to hit since they're bigger, have a larger damage radius, and shake the screen when they explode. This map has a very strong theme and narrative, and it pushes it in many ways. The theme is, the red team is being mind-controlled by a giant brain at the end of the payload track, and the blue team wants to destroy it. There are posters and newspaper clippings explaining this backstory everywhere. The map is far from subtle about this narrative. There are green glowing pustules growing around the map. Shooting the pustules that have collision produces bloody bullet holes. This is a crazy level of attention to detail. These things are alive. They bleed. That's kinda freaky. This map is a really substantial edit of the original map. It's clear to see a lot of time and effort was put into the visuals. One place that stands out is this area. The mapmaker decided to use the shadows from the minecart track above to paint this area down below. Very interesting choice. As mentioned before, there's a giant brain at the end of the payload track. It's suspended in green liquid in the ground. When the cart gets to the end of the payload track, it falls in and explodes the brain. This causes chunks of brain matter to erupt from the ground. This is delightfully gory in a B-movie sort of way. Inside one of Red's final spawn rooms, there are monitors that display the status of the giant brain. When the brain explodes, its status is updated to read kablooey. This is an excellent, humorous detail. Water was intelligently added to the ground just outside of Red's second spawn. This is a great design choice, as it's common for stupid players on the original map this map is based on to run directly off the ledge just outside of spawn, fall down to the bottom, and take fall damage. Water makes it so they can continue their stupidity, but not take the fall damage. That was all the positive aspects of this map. Now for the negative aspects. Behind Blue's first spawn, there are pools of nuclear waste. The sound effect of a Geiger counter plays near the glass. This is strange, as there's no apparent source for the sound. Nuclear waste by itself does not make the sound of a Geiger counter. You need an actual Geiger counter to hear a Geiger counter. Oh my god. They did the thing where they put the shovel upside down on the rack. This is a really bad practice. It's a safety hazard. The blade of the shovel should not be on top. If it's ever put away wet, it makes the entire thing dirty. The water flows downwards, and it makes the shaft and handle filthy. When it has to be taken down, it's more difficult, and there's a chance of injury. Metal shovels are heavy, and their blades are the heaviest part. Don't hang them up like this! Now this is how you're supposed to hang up a shovel. Wait a second. Hoax also does this? Wait another second. Soul Mill also does this? What the heck? Is this some sort of anti-occupational health and safety propaganda orchestrated by Team Fortress 2 mapmakers? Why did they all do this? Oh, you know what it is. They all just copied the mistake from a Valve map without thinking about it. That's a reasonable explanation. This does not excuse the problem. It only means Valve is guilty of not properly hanging up shovels as well. This resupply cabinet is notably partially in the wall. Ultimately, this map is pretty great. This is why the small flaws it possesses stand out so much. The overall quality is so high that when there are dips in the quality, they are very apparent. The fifth map is called Static, and it's a player destruction map made by these guys. It's a Halloween event version of the map Control Point Powerhouse. The way this map works is, there's a large television in the center of the map. After a minute, its image changes to a swirl to indicate that it can be walked into. Doing so teleports the player to a TV dimension. In the TV dimension, all walls and props are black and white, or monochromatic grayscale to be more precise. There are two possible TV dimension locations, one resembling a dungeon and the other resembling a mansion. The TV dimension players are sent to alternate each time the TV portal opens. After 30 seconds, the portal closes. Successfully exiting the TV dimension teleports players near their spawn with temporary buffs. This map is a player destruction map, so players collect an item from defeated enemies. On this map, that item is batteries. The batteries are deposited in a collection zone in the TV dimensions. When the portal opens, skeletons can spawn near the large TV. They have TVs on their heads that display a skull with a static background. They have a lot of health and explode on death, dealing damage around them. These skeletons are genuinely creepy. The TV dimension locations have a few problems. The dungeon one is cramped and funnels players to the collection zone with no real space for maneuvering. There's only 2 paths to the collection zone for each team. The mansion one requires players take fall damage. Technically it's possible to descend without taking fall damage, but the TV dimension constantly deals damage to players, so players are in a rush. There's no time to take a safe route to the bottom floor. The idea and theming of this map is great. It's super creative to have TV dimensions where everything is grayscale. Nothing like this exists in the world of Team Fortress 2. It's such a great idea. This map is well put together visually. It's substantially different from the map it's based on. Large architectural changes were made to this map from the original. The biggest difference is the 2 areas that house the final control points on the original map have been removed. To compensate, the spawns have been extended. This introduces a small problem. The areas that used to lead to the final control point rooms used twisting hallways and multiple paths on different floors. They were built to give players multiple ways to tackle the final control points. On this map, these paths still exist, but lead to nothing. As a result, there is pointlessly complex architecture just outside the 2 spawn rooms for no reason. When a round ends, the large TV starts to fizzle and then partially explodes with the winning team's color on the screen. This isn't overly flashy, but it's a satisfying ending to a round. Closing criticism for this map: the middle area could use some cover. The bridge in particular is especially exposed. It's really bad to fall into the gorge in the middle. Most classes can only escape the gorge by ascending the ramp, which is very exposed. Overall, this map is alright. The theme is intriguing, and the visuals are solid. Alright. We just looked at 5 interesting maps from the Steam Workshop. Some were fantastic, and some had the amazing potential to become fantastic one day. I'd love for that day to come, to see more work invested into them so they can fulfill their maximum potential. And that was the video. If you think any of the maps featured in this video should be added to the game in the Halloween update, feel free to follow the links in the description to their workshop pages and give them a lick. For some reason I wrote lick instead of like in the script. Anyways, also give them a like if you want. Thanks for watching! Au revoir!